For our final session before dinner, I'm delighted to have Fei-Fei Li here with us. Just a couple notes of introduction and then we'll jump to questions. So Fei-Fei is a Sequoia Capital Professor of Computer Science here at Stanford. She's the co-director of the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, and she is colloquially known as the godmother of AI. I'm not sure if she's grudgingly accepting this moniker or not. Fei-Fei's creation of ImageNet, which labeled millions of images, is widely credited for jumpstarting the modern AI revolution. She's been a huge proponent of advancing AI in ways that improve the human condition. She's an inspiration to me, to I think all of my Stanford colleagues and countless students here and across the world. So maybe let me start with some big picture questions and then we can zoom in. You've been sort of at the front seat of the landmark milestones in AI since you created ImageNet. What about the path we've been on, what has surprised you? What was predictable for somebody with your level of technical understanding? What maybe has disappointed you? Maybe we could go even faster.
Yeah, thank you, Neale. Thank you, everybody. It's always an honor to be here at the SIEPR event. Okay, yeah. So I did enter the field of AI actually precisely 25 years ago, and that was smack in the middle of AI winter. I became a PhD student. I think we still have this ring. Yeah, so we'll solve AI before we solve AV. Really entering AI in the middle of AI winter as a PhD student was truly a personal curiosity. There was no glamour, there was no money, there was no industry. But as a student, I was so fascinated by asking the most audacious questions of humanity, because I was so inspired by physics and by other scientific revolution that to me the question of what is intelligence, can machines think and do, frankly, was the most audacious question for me. So from that point of view, it's no surprising that fast forward 25 years, that AI has become a civilizational technology, because I genuinely believe that the technology of artificial intelligence is a civilizational level question, and unlocking its capabilities will lead to civilizational impact. So that part was not surprising. I do have to confess, the progress of AI, even to a technologist like me, at points are much faster than we have anticipated. The first taste of this fastness was actually around 2015. That I had a graduate student now. He's very famous. He has far more Twitter followers than I do. His name is Andrej Karpathy. And Andrej Karpathy and I did a series of work called image captioning, which is that you give a computer an image and it tells what is in the image. Of course, compared to today's generative AI, the captioning was relatively short. It's 1 or 2 sentences. It's not these ginormous paragraphs. But the ability to look at any image and be able to tell not only there's a chair, there's a cat, but be able to tell a story out of it, 2-person on stage talking in front of a audience, that level of understanding, I thought when I entered grad school was my lifelong dream, that it'll take 100 years. I thought that by the time I retire as a professor, I would be very proud my field, which is visual intelligence or computer vision, would crack this problem of storytelling. But 2015, Andre and I did this series of work with a couple of other students, and it pretty much solved that problem. And this was before Gen AI, generative AI. So that was my first taste. Along with that moment was the taste of industry investment, because before, in my first phase of my career, this question of AI is so blue sky that it was just academics and a few very isolated industry labs that are tinkering with it. We are happy we go to a 500 people conference and share papers to each other. But 2015, when Andrea and I were working on this problem, we were competing with Google. We actually raced to the same point at the same time. I was very proud of that, but it was very clear that industry was taking off with this technology. Of course, the second major surprise for technologists like us was the powerful LLMs, large language models. They are we know the technology was happening. Transformer papers was written. We know the scaling law. We know the convergence of big data chips as well as neural network architecture. But seeing large language model in the hands of the global population and seeing how fast that turned into industrial changing forces was a major epiphany for all of us. So definitely there are surprises. You want me to talk about disappointments?
We can talk about disappointments. We can talk about the human-centered part of the Institute's mission. You can choose your own adventure. Which one?
Maybe they are related. I like to say I'm the most boring speaker in AI these days because precisely my disappointment is the hyperbole on both sides. I think when I entered this beloved science of mine, there was so much reverence as a scientist I have to the field of AI, the reverence of pursuit of truth, pursuit of innovation, the rigorous evaluation and debating, and just treating this field as a science. But the AI is no longer just a science. AI is a full throttle industrial power. And come with it is the hyperbole on both sides. We've got the total extinction, doomsday, P-doom, and all that talk about AI will ruin, humanity, machine overlord. Frankly, I don't really care about the rich and powerful talking like that. I really care about the impact to those vulnerable population when they hear the rich and powerful talk like that. And then there is also the total utopian, right? There's these words like post-scarcity, post-whatever, infinite productivity. And I think that as a scholar, as a technologist, and as, frankly, a citizen of the world, I think we have to treat every moment of change, every technology, every tool with soberness. This is a tool. It's a very powerful tool. It is a double-edged sword. It is very much ours, humans' responsibility to take it for good, use it for good, govern it for good, but also to prevent the misuses or the unintended consequences. So this extreme rhetoric that is filling the airwave, when people right now, this moment, the world's population, especially those who are not in Silicon Valley, need to hear the facts, need to hear what this truly is, need to hear about how this technology will impact not only their life, but their children's life, their community's life. Yet that kind of discourse, that kind of communication, that kind of public education is not as good as I hope it is.
So I think we could talk about these topics probably for hours, but our time is limited. So I do want to move to an area where you are again, leading the field, which is spatial intelligence. And I think, for myself and for maybe many people in this room, when they first think about AI, they think about LLMs, right? You write information in a box, and you get text in a box. You've argued that spatial intelligence is AI's next frontier. Can you tell us what you mean by spatial intelligence and maybe some concrete examples?
Yeah, so thanks, Neil. So what is spatial intelligence? Why do I think it's AI's next frontier? It goes to first principle that intelligence is a very complex thing. It is not just linguistic. If you look at human intelligence, from psychologists back in 1960s talking about multiple intelligence theories to our daily life common sense, right? How many of you drove here? How many of you made a sandwich today? How many of you, hugged your kids? All this are outside of the realm of language. I joke that you cannot put down a fire by just talking. So much of our human intelligence, our human development rests upon our ability to perceive, to reason, and to do things, to move around and interact. Just take a drink, and that very movement has nothing to do with language. It has a lot to do with geometry, space, seeing and manipulating and all that. All this is what I call spatial intelligence. It's a linchpin technology that connects seeing to doing, perceiving to reasoning, and imagination to creation. And if you look at human development, 2 years out of our first 2 years are pre-verbal. If you look at animal intelligence evolution, perception started about 540 million years ago. Animals start to see the first light, and it took 500 million years to get to the level of complexity, dexterity, and creativity our visual intelligence has. Yet language is evolutionarily about a few 100,000 years old. So much of intelligence rests outside of language intelligence. And if we unlock spatial intelligence, what would happen? Well, we would fundamentally change storytelling, would change the fields of creativity from filmmaking to gaming to immersive experiences to education. It'll change simulation and robotics. It'll change design. It'll have a profound impact in commerce, in healthcare, in marketing, in scientific discovery. So this is what I'm truly excited about, because we have done, as a field, I don't take credit, as a field we have done a huge revolution in linguistic language intelligence. I think that the next chapter truly is unlocking spatial intelligence.
So let me push on this, and forgive my sort of naivete, but spatial intelligence seems hard, right? With LLMs, we had this huge training data set, which is the internet. I remember when people were telling me that self-driving cars would put every truck driver out of a job by 2018.
Yeah, I remember that too.
We're just starting to see self-driving cars here in Palo Alto now. Where are we going to see the first breakthroughs for sort of regular consumers, everyday people, in terms of spatial intelligence? Where are you most optimistic? Or do you not agree that this is a harder nut to crack?
I think it is harder not to crack. The fact that we cracked language intelligence before spatial intelligence speaks, and you're right, the volumes of data out there that's available for language learning is a major part of the reason, if not the reason, that LLMs are so powerful. I don't know how many of you have read the seminal paper called The Bitter Lesson by Richard Sutton, and the bitter lesson is wherever there is a large amount of data, we unlock major progress in AI. So So we do have a lot of video data on the internet, yet spatial intelligence is profoundly 3D, it's 4D if you add time to it, so there is more to just video. From a technology point of view, I'm running a startup called World Labs. We are the first company who has created a spatial intelligence model called Marble that is in the hands of everybody in the public, that you can play with it. It's the first, what we call world model, that actually generate truly 3D space. And in order to do that, it took a lot of wrangling. We have to use a hybrid approach to data. And you're totally right, Neale. You know, we all remember the hype of self-driving car, right? Like 2018, 2017, every car company was promising full L4 driving, and we were just starting to see limited L4 driving. And I think that is going to be the journey that we will take a while to unlock this technology gradually. We're going to see this first. We're already seeing the two-dimensional version of that. Everybody enjoys Midjourney. Yesterday, Nano Banana also made everybody very happy. I'm sure you've done a lot of memes. And we're seeing a glimpse of video generation, but in the sense of true spatial intelligence, true 3D world modeling, I think creativity and storytelling is perhaps one of the first industry that's going to benefit from that because it's so painful to create 3D worlds for storytelling. There's so many people who will spend hours and hours to create one asset at a time. And this will really, really help. And if you go to our startup's homepage, you'll see some use cases. But I also think this technology would have a profound impact in simulation and robotic learning, which is extremely bottlenecked by data. And I personally, I'm seeing a glimpse of use cases of education, which would make me very excited. You know, this technology can really give students a different kind of experiences.
Great. So I'm going to ask one question, which maybe it's for both of us, and then I will open it up to all of you. So I think, you know, one strength of Stanford is collaboration across the different schools and departments. You know, HI is a sister institution of SIEPR. What are ways that computer scientists, technologists can collaborate with economists? Hopefully this is the start of the conversation, not the end.
Yeah, first of all, it's totally true. SIEPR is one of our dearest sister institute and collaborators. You guys heard from Professor Eric Brynjolfsson, who's still sitting there, who was our first joint hire of HI and SIEPR senior fellow and professor of economics. And I think first of all, in the field of economics and social science and policy, that AI and SIEPR would have deep, many. I frankly think we should, every senior fellow in HI or faculty in HI and SIEPR should have some level of collaboration, because these two areas, disciplines, are just coming closer and closer, right? The economic impact, the technological impact of every single industry and every aspect of economics and social sciences is just so profound. And you're also right that I was told that Stanford is the only university that has top-ranked schools, that has, every school is top-ranked in the country, and you have walking distance from every school to the other school in sunshine 365 days, except today. I'm sorry about that. So the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary culture, as well as opportunity at Stanford, is just phenomenal. Many of us come from other universities, either as students or former jobs. I personally just think it's such a privilege and opportunity to work here at Stanford precisely because of this.
It is fantastic to have you here. So maybe I'll just mention one more thing on this and then open it up. That I sometimes joke, but I mean this with too much seriousness, that economists are sort of experts in what policy we should have counterfactually done 10 years or 5 years ago, because we don't get data until now, and then it takes us forever to write and publish papers. If we are 5, 10, 15 years behind the curve on AI, I don't think we will be doing our profession, our society justice. And I think the only way for us to be more contemporary is to come and visit you and learn about what's next and spatial intelligence and everything else. So hoping we can continue that collaboration. So let me open it up. I know Fei-Fei has to take her daughter to a show in the city because she wears many hats, including being an awesome mom, so I don't want to keep her here too long.
That's paying debt. That I've worked too much in the past few weeks. So.
But yes, please, folks who have questions. Maybe we'll just start right here in the back because we have a microphone.
Hi, Doctor. Thank you so much. I'm a graduate student here, and I also do AI policy at Databricks. We are amongst so many people at Stanford, like yourself, who have PhDs in AI, research scientists, but from a policy perspective, I'm really nervous about AI literacy and how we educate those communities that you outlined, who are not at Stanford, who don't know anything about AI, but will be profoundly impacted by this technology. How are you thinking about AI literacy and equitable outcomes for everyone from AI?
I think AI literacy is so critical. Thank you for calling it out. I've been saying public education is one of the most important thing and underappreciated critical task for this moment in history. And I frankly do believe that Stanford, SIEPR, HAI, we have an outsized responsibility in public education. We cannot just be content in educating the 4 years of undergrads and graduate students within this wall as the nation, frankly, the world's one of the top institutions, and with so many talents on campus who understand this technology and the implication of this technology, we really need to use whatever way we can to partner and educate. For example, I know that both SIEPR and HI have been very proactive. We issue policy briefs. We constantly go to the state and federal and local level to engage, whether it's testimony or closed door. We also have congressional boot camp. We also engage with the international government. And just frankly, I do think all my colleagues, esteemed colleagues, if we together can call out this lack of public education and AI literacy in policy, in business, in other circles, this is the beginning of the change.
I second that. Let's go over here.
Hello, my name is Klaus from the Danish Tech Ambassador's office here in Silicon Valley. I share your interest in spatial data, but I'm wondering, is there one company that has an advantage above everybody else, being Tesla, with all the data they collect from their vehicles?
Tesla is a car company, and of course it's moving to robotics. It does have its unique advantage in the lane of, pun intended, of mobility. But spatial intelligence is so much wider than just driving. I don't want to be gross and just talk about my company, but just check out our website. But really, spatial intelligence is much wider, from creativity to education to design to transportation.
Hi, Ziyang Fan. Hi, good to see you again. Okay. Institute for California AI Policy. My question is policy related. You mentioned spatial intelligence. What kind of policy do we need specifically to either unlock the potentials of spatial intelligence or to mitigate potential harms, say vis-a-vis, Gen AI or other kind of AI? Thank you.
This is a conversation to have for hours. I would just quickly say healthy AI ecosystem. I worry about this. I worry about monopoly. I worry about the lack of entrepreneurship. I deeply, profoundly worry about lack of resourcing to public sector. I worry about the struggle with entrepreneurship. America is built on a healthy ecosystem. Our strength today was because decades and decades ago there was investments in public sector, in academia, in our entrepreneurial ecosystem as well as in our companies. And right now AI has this tendency to concentrate resource, both in terms of little power, electrical power, in terms of chips, in terms of talents, and we are seeing a really shrinking of resources in public sector, which will have a profound negative impact to the many years and decades to come.
So I think we should let you go. A warm round of applause, Dr. Fei-Fei.